Hey, Evan, Francesca. I wanted to show you how I got this thing working. It's probably too complicated to write down, so I just thought I would demonstrate to you. Um, we've got our spindle tool attached to the robot. I want to put a new tool point right on the end of this. That's going to be part of the actual finishing tool. So I'm going to go Other, Create Tool Data, and we're just going to call this Tool Mill. And we're just going to set that thing right on the tip here. So got it on face, got it on center. Select that, click on this, and we'll just create it. And that didn't work. Let's try it again. I'm going to delete that one because it ended up being at the base of the tool. I want it on the tip here. I don't know why that didn't happen. So we'll try this one more time. Create tool data. And I'll call it tool mill. Again, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to select that thing right there, accept it, and create. There it is. There's the tool. Unfortunately, the tool is backwards. I can see the blue line is facing the wrong direction. So I think there's the blue line right there. I want that Z fixing, pointing straight out. So I'm going to rotate it around the red axis here. So we'll just choose that tool and we'll just rotate it around the red axis. That's the x-axis, 90 degrees. And we'll just make it around local and apply. There it is. So now we see the tool mill is now attached to the end of that. And that's good. That's the first thing I want to do. Second thing I want to do is I want to turn your part here into a work object, right? So let's go to here and we're going to create a work object and we're going to call it, we're going to call it W mold because it's for your mold. And I'm going to go down here and we'll choose this corner position right here and accept that and create it. And that looks fine. Looks like we've created this. Awesome. You want to make sure this tool, by the way, when you did create it, make sure it's attached to the robot. It should be. So if the robot moves, it should move nicely with it. Let's see if it does. We'll just select our robot. There it is. And we'll just move around a little bit. And it looks like it's moving okay. Select the robot. Yes, nicely centered on that. Beautiful. Okay, next thing we want to do now, we got this set up. We want to go into our machining. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of all the old geometry that was from the previous experiment. I'm just going to delete that one. And I'm going to delete any geometry that's in there from before. I'm going to get rid of my old mold tool. I'll delete that. And if there's any program from before, there's a few of them. I'm going to delete those. We don't want it. We're going to start with a clean slate here. So I'm going to right click, delete. Yep. Right click, delete. Yep. And right click, delete. And yep. There we go. So now my nothing in geometry, tool, or program. So let's go to geometry first of all. And we're going to create a work object. And the work object we're going to create is going to be in TROB1, and we can call it cam work mold. Here we go. And we're going to use our W mold that we already created, work mold that we created before. See, we've already got that one ready to go. We'll call it cam work mold. And then we're going to say, okay, perfect. Now, we have to lay out the geometry, which is going to be how we do the actual milling on this thing. So to lay out the geometry, we'll call it, I'll call it geometry mold because it's for your mold. The work object will be can W mold, and we're going to do projection geometry. We're going to shine down on this thing. So let's specify the process area. Specify the area. We'll click on this, and we're going to choose this face right here. We're going to say okay. Then we're going to specify how big the boundary is, like how much of this huge space here are we actually going to be milling in? Well, it's easy to just select this area and click here in space And over there, choose another spot over here. Oops. There we go. Let's get this one here. That spot, and then this spot, and then get a couple more in there. This spot, and then this spot. Okay, and we're going to do everything inside that. Now we're not going to use 0. That was a mistake. I'll just delete that one. So you click on that, and you click on the little sideways garbage can here, and that gets rid of that. And that shows us what we're going to be working with. This is the space, and it looks like it's nicely laid out right on our surface, flush with our surface, and we're going to do all our milling in there. So that sounds really cool. I'm happy with that. Let's just go OK. Next thing, we already specified the boundary and the area, so we can just say OK. And next, we can do a preview, and we can just say, oh, now we've done the process area. We've done this part. Now let's specify the project curve. So we're going to use a spline. Okay, so that spline should be fine. Okay, and specify the project vector, the vector coming straight down on our object. That's fine too. So we're going to say OK, and we click on OK. And now you can see it's been projected. The spline that was overhead has been projected down onto the surface here. Now, let's go into our tool. We're going to create a tool, and we can call it, I don't know, we'll call it mill tool, right? And we want it to be, it's going to be in our tool mill counterclockwise. We're going to machine on the face, the end of it. That's the machine. We're not going to machine on the side. We're going to machine on the end. Okay. And this sets up the diameter of the tip and the length and the contact diameter. So I can look over here and I can actually see the outline of how the tool is going to be. And it's really the end of this thing that we're going to be using for our business end. And if we wanted to, maybe we could maybe do a flame cutter. No, what else we got? We got a swallow cutter. We'll just use the T cutter or a desk cutter. We'll stick with our chamfer cutter. And we can play around with the shape of it if we want to, but we won't worry about it right now. Click on OK. Okay, now we're going to go to program. We're going to create a program group for this thing. Have I done everything with tool? Yes. We're going to go to program. We're going to create a program for it, and we're going to call it P for program mold. Okay. Now let's make a new home for this thing, the starting position. Right now it's kind of hanging out in space. I think that's a good starting position. So why don't we just teach it this position as our starting position, and we'll say, okay, there we go. So the program is now done. And if you go to tool and program, you can see the programs right there. Now let's do our operation. So the operation, we'll create the operation. A fixed contact point's fine. That's the name we're going to give it. Geometry geo mold. The tool is mill tool. The program is P mold. The tool axis is just part normal. Everything looks good. We'll preview this, and it looks great for doing the surface of our thing. Now, I would like to do the inside of it too. We only got the surface chosen here. We might want to carve out the inside as well. So before we go too further, let's see if we can fix this. You can see it's only going to do the surface now. So let's just close this up. Let's go back to geometry. And there's the geometry we had before. So let's specify the process area again. So we got this big face. Let's add on this face as well. You should select faces and they should belong to the same part. So we'll, oops. So that face and, oh, and we're crashed. Let's do this one more time here. So I'm going to take that geo mold off. Cancel this, cancel that. Let's take that geo mold off. Delete that. and we'll just create a new geometry. Create a geometry, projection geometry, specify area. This will be that one and that one. Okay, and the surface area will be, well, position will be on the surface, of course, and we're just going to draw our four little points to bound our thing. So we'll choose that, and we'll just do 1 point there, and 1 point there, and 1 point there, and 1 point there. And back there again. So what have we got? We have this point, and that's 0, 0. We don't want that one. We'll just delete that. So we'll garbage that one. We have this point and this point. So this point here is right there, which is good on the corner. This point is not visible, so I'm going to delete this one. What I want to do is I want to set up my 4 points on the 4 corners of my work area. So I'm setting up the boundary right now. So I'll just delete that. Let's start over again. So we'll go to this one. Come on, get that little ball on there. There we go. There's 1. And 2. And 3. And 4, if I can get it. 4. And it's going to be on the inside of those 4. And there we go. This is very cool. So that's our boundary, which is cool. We set the boundary and we set the areas. We say, okay. And now we'll do the specify the curve. We'll use a spline for our shape and specify the vector. We'll just let the vector be straight down onto it. So specify the vector. Okay. That should do it. Now, if we preview that, there we can see now we have our spline that actually goes inside our little well here. That's perfect. So we'll say, okay. Okay, we'll go to our tool. We already set our tool up. So let's go to our program. Let's go to our program. And we already have the home here. Program looks good. Let's do our operation. Preview the operation. Now we can see it's actually going down into our well. Perfect. So we'll say, okay. And now let's try a simulation, see if this is going to work for us. So we click on simulation. And now if you look at it, it looks like the tool is actually trying to work on its edge. We don't want it to work on the edge. We want it to work on the face. So you can see right now, if you look at the tool, it looks like the tool is working on the edge, not the face. So let's go back to our tool. So I'm going to close this up. I'm going to go back to our tool. There's our old mill tool. And yeah, sure enough, it's side mirror machining. I should do face machining. So I'm going to say, okay. All right. So we can try create the operation again. We'll preview it one more time. Looks good. Now let's accept that, and we'll just go to simulation, and let's see how it works this time. Okay, now we have 2 simulations. The first simulation was the one that didn't work for us, this one here, and it failed mostly. It was the edge tool. And this was the one where we changed it to the face of the tool. So we don't want the first one. So I'm going to close this and let's delete this one. And we'll just stick with this one. Now let's try a simulation on that. There we go. Here it is starting over again. And you can see it's working beautifully, all right? Working on the face of the mill. And then it comes up to the well. And there it is in the well. Okay, I'm satisfied. And it says it's 100% and everything's green, so we're good here. So we'll just close that up. And let's, now if we want to, we could go to the path editor and we could check it all out to make sure if there's any changes we want to make, any velocity changes or instruction changes or anything like that. We could make them right here for every point on there, but there isn't because I think it's beautiful. And now it's ready to go. So we could export it and bring it into another program, or we could just actually run our program in simulation mode. So there it goes to home, takes a second, and runs our program. All right, so there you go. So I'd like to see if you guys can get yours working and show me that you guys are champions. And I'll look forward to seeing them.
Well, I ain't letting you quit. I ain't letting you quit.